Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Last week's video was all about things you can make yourself at home for your planner. This week's video is exactly the opposite and what I'm calling my essentials for setting up your Hobonichi Weeks for the first time. These are just a few products that I will generally have and use in most of my Hobonichi Weeks. I'll leave links into the description for where to buy any of these. Although most of them you can order directly from Hobonichi, particularly if you're international and you do just want a couple of accessories, it generally doesn't make it worth it to order directly. But obviously if you haven't done your planner purchasing for next year yet and are still intending to make an order, then definitely there'll be a couple of bits to throw in your cart at the same time. Okay, so first up we're going to talk cover on cover. So for the Hobonichi Weeks, the cover on cover is different to the one for the Cousin and the A6. The ones for the Cousin and the A6 are designed to go over the covers that you can buy from the Hobonichi website. The cover on cover for the Weeks is literally just to go over the planner itself with no extra covers or anything like that. They're also only designed for the regular and mega weeks. The sneaker weeks will not fit into these covers. Well, it will fit, but there'll be an overhang at the top because the sneaker weeks is slightly shorter than the actual weeks. In terms of the cover itself, I particularly love this because it isn't just kind of a functional cover to kind of, protect the fabric of the weeks. It actually has quite a few different bits of storage and kind of handy little extras that really just elevate this from kind of a plain piece of plastic, or patterned piece of plastic should I say. So one thing that I forgot to mention is it comes in clear, and then each year they also release certain designs that usually end up being very cute and work really well with the covers, like the coloured covers of the weeks for that year. So this is one from 2019 and I absolutely love it. But yeah, back to where I was before I got distracted. So in the internal pocket, or in the front pocket rather, it's kind of a card size slot. You then obviously have storage here where you can put things in. You also get this, which I'm going to show you in here because I've actually moved it in this one because I actually used it this year, well, in 2019. And this is actually a page marker. So the idea being that you've kind of finished writing, you put that in there, close the planner, and then the next time you open it, you can go straight to your page. It's not the best, and what a lot of people actually tend to use this for is as a closure for the cover. So one thing about this cover is it has no way of closing it. There's no kind of closure or lock or anything like that. The plastic thing I'm going to talk about in a second because that's my next kind of recommended product. So if you don't have this elastic thing, then you might want a way to close it. What some people do is they fix Velcro on here and on here, so you can just literally use it as a closure. What other people, and this is what I've done myself, is if you feed that through there, you then create another pen loop, which then means that you can feed your pen through like so and close the planner, just like how the A6 and Cousins have a closure with two pen loops. So nifty little trick with that one. It took me ages to find that out, and then when I found it out I was like, oh, that's kind of life-changing. But yeah, then on the back you have another pocket, and then obviously the larger back pocket and the pen loop. So for not a lot of money you get a good high quality case. This isn't a 1 year's use and kind of bin it thing. It will last. So this is from 2019 and still, like, yes, it's got a bit of damage there, but I'd be more than happy to move that onto next year's planner and it will just last for another few years. So yeah, highly recommend this as a product, particularly if you do want a little bit of extra storage, or if you've got one of the lighter colours and you don't want it to get damaged or dirty. Really good buy. Moving on to what I call the plasticky thing. So this is a Hobonichi page keeper. These exist in Weeks, A6 and Cousin, but for the Weeks they have an extra kind of bonus use. So it's meant to be just like the tag thing we talked about on here. It's basically to keep your page and you can just go straight to the correct week. The best use for me is actually using it to close the planner, because I have in the past used this as my everyday carry planner, so it has been thrown in my bag, and having it, fall open or whatever really annoying. Having a very simple page keeper that you can close it with, it fits perfectly in this pocket. It's kind of seemingly what it was designed for, and yeah, the two just work incredibly well together. And if you have got one, I highly recommend getting the other. Obviously, if you haven't got cover on cover, you have no way of kind of storing the page keeper, so you do need both together really. But yeah, great little purchase. So next we're going to talk tabs. So tabs are something that I cannot live without, and if you're a regular on the channel you will know that I absolutely love tabbing up my planners. As you can see, there's quite a few on here. For this section I'm going to talk about two different kinds of tabs. So first up are the monthly tabs. These are just a massive prerequisite for me. You know, if you're looking for future plans, you don't want to be rifling through the pages, you want to just get to the month. These are just simple ones from the shop, which I will link in case you are interested, but they come in very many different guises. There's pretty Hobonichi, Hobonichi do their own ones, Midori do some really nice ones, there's a million and one over on Etsy, but I highly recommend just picking up some tabs just to help you with the monthlies. Then beyond that, there are a million and one other kinds of tabs. So I tend to use either Avery or Post-it tabs. These are the Avery tabs, and they are a really good size, which means you can then put either a title of what it is, or this year I put stickers, just because it looked a little bit more fun. They come in a range of different colours, so you can usually match them to the planner. I can't live without tabs. Even when I have a bullet journal with an index, I won't use it. I need tabs to go to my most used pages. Then I have Cocoa Fusion tabs. So these ones will tend to be more permanent tabs. So my budget planning section, although that tab will move from one month to the next, I always have a tab for that. Whereas the plain Cocoa Fusion ones, these are kind of used for more kind of off the cuff pages. So it might be, so let's have a look, see what was in here. So this, for whatever reason, was just a particular month that I needed to mark off and go to quickly. I sometimes use these for these pages if I want to go to them quickly, but they don't really need their own kind of separate tab with a sticker or a title, because they're just my index. Yeah, always tab up these pages massively. It's how my brain works. I need to be able to get things quickly. Next we are going to talk plastic pockets. So with most of the weeks, so with these two, but not with this, you get a plastic pocket as standard. So it's just one of these. I always have one of these, and then we'll generally add at least one more. Usually I have one at the front, one at the back, and it'll change across the year in terms of how I use them. So this is just my colour coding for my monthly. Sometimes I'll have a washi card in there so I can just washi on the go. Sometimes there'll be stickers. Sometimes when I've used this as my purse, it's had my bank card in it. I can't recommend enough just picking up a couple of extra ones just to give you that extra flexibility for, added little bits and pieces of storage, or even something like a photograph that you can then move from one plan to the next and don't have to lose it, or, collecting ephemera when you're out and about. So many uses, very inexpensive, but highly recommend picking one up at least, if not a couple. Next, I want to talk blotting paper. So if you are planning on using the Hobonichi pen with your weeks, you won't need this, but if you're planning to use a fountain pen, then I highly recommend getting some blotting paper. This just works as my page marker as well, so it allows me to quickly get to the right week because I add a little tab at the top, and yeah, I can easily see it, but also it means that every time I close my planner, I know I don't need to worry about smudging because this is going to capture all of it. And again, if you've seen any of my videos, you will know I smudge my pen a lot, so this is definitely a prerequisite for me. If you saw last week's video, you will know that I have blotting paper page markers in basically all of my planners. It's a necessity, and quite an inexpensive one as well, because the pack that I got, which I'll link, I got loads of sheets for like a £5 or something, and I bought them years ago and I'm still going through it. So yeah, very good purchase. Speaking of things that I talked about in last week's video, I talked about pencil boards. So the reason that I didn't get a plastic wallet in this planner, the Moomin one, was because it actually came with a pencil board instead, which is really cool. I absolutely love this. It's got the ruler on the side, it's got a design on it, whereas some of the other pencil boards, if you get the kind of plain Hobonichi one, it'll just kind of have you know, a graph on one side and then just plain on the other, so you can use it, because obviously in these pages there's no lines here, so you can generally see the lines underneath when you're writing, but sometimes having a pencil board underneath that you can then see the lines through does just help your writing be a bit neater. But it took me a while actually to kind of really kind of see the true usefulness of a pencil board, and it was mainly because of how I recently started planning with these lines. So what I found, particularly on this side of the page, is that as the year's gone on, where I've had stickers and washi, the paper is no longer flat. So when I'm trying to do these lines, if I don't have a pencil board underneath to kind of flatten the page and make it kind of quite taut, the lines will just go kind of wobbly where like the indents in the page are because of like stickers and things like that. Whereas with the pencil board, it's 100% neat every time. It only really was when I kind of started planning in this way that I realised, oh yeah, pencil boards are actually really useful. Up until that point, I basically used them as page markers only and nothing else. So yeah, top tip, again, another inexpensive piece just to throw in your basket when you're doing a Hobonichi order. Finally, it's not a necessity, but I feel like particularly if you're setting up your first Hobonichi Weeks, it would be remiss of me to not talk about a good intro to fountain pens. So I had used fountain pens at school, but then kind of ditched them, and only recently, I say recently, I've been in Hobonichi now for about 6 years, but it was only getting into Hobonichi and the Tomorrow River paper that got me back into fountain pens. And the Platinum Preppy will always be my most recommended fountain pen for someone wanting to get into fountain pens again, getting the hang of writing with them, you know, getting annoyed with the smudges and things like that. Although I will say the Platinum ink is probably one of the better inks that I've used in these pages in terms of smudging. When I use any of my diamine inks, they smear a hell of a lot more than the ink does here. But yeah, they are inexpensive, they're lovely and easy to write with. They come in a few different colours, including highlighter randomly, a few different widths and sizes, and particularly the EF. So this is the, I think this is the EF 02, yeah, I think this one, yeah, this one is the 03, the F, the 02 EF. So I'm not much of an extra fine nib person, but in the Preppy, it's definitely kind of not required, but this is a bit too thick for me in the Hobonichi Weeks just because of the size of the grid paper. So this was written in this. As you can see, it works very nicely in terms of the sizing. This just a bit too thick, but it's kind of nice, particularly as it's green, because the ink does actually match the barrel. Nice for adding a bit of colour in places. But yeah, if you are new to Hobonichi and do fancy picking up a fountain pen just to try out with the planner, definitely recommend one of these. You will not regret it, and it is very cheap for what is a fantastic pen. I've had these for the length of time that I've had my Hobonichi, so 5-6 years. They are still doing very well for me. The cartridges are easy to pick up, and yeah, even though I've got expensive pens, I still go back to these, particularly for the weeks. And that's it in terms of things that I recommend. I hope this was useful for you. I hope this was beneficial. Like I say, I'll leave the links to everything I mentioned below so you can easily find them. But if you do have any questions or anything you'd like to add to the list really in terms of your kind of definite needs for the Hobonichi Weeks, please let me know. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you in the next video. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Bye.